on the horizon. It's been said that those that have the eyes to see and the ears to hear will play a paramount role in the furthering of humanity and civilized society. But can civilized society and humanity survive the coming conflicts not seen since a dawn of time in ages bypast? But you can find true forms of information and knowledge in abundance at revolution.radio, freedomsluts.com, the #1 listener-supported radio station on the globe. Stand upon the right side of history. Revolution.
And good morning. Welcome to Coffee Rants with Dan. I am the spiritual anarchist, Dan, your host. Today is December 11th, 2025, in the year of all of us, because we are all fragments of divinity. Last week, I feel like I kind of emotionally vomited all over the radio waves here, the internet wave, radio, whatever. And I'm not sorry for it. I'm going to try not to do it this week. It is called Coffee Rants and not Evening Champagne, so sometimes I will get angry and a little mad and not offended. It's important to make that that differential statement between righteous anger and people who are offended. See, in schools, people are learned helplessness because since about 1996 or 97 onward, if you got into a fight in school, even if you didn't start the fight and even throw a punch to try to defend yourself, you still got suspended for being punched. I'm just going to keep it simple, stupid. They want to create that type of learned helplessness. Because when they create that learned helplessness, you're always looking to someone else to solve your problems for you. And it directly involves many things that overlap in our society that's leading to the problem we have in the macrocosm of the world, which is human slavery. But before I start getting into the things I'm going to talk about, again, this isn't a political show. Politics is a false paradigm. Politics is It's an illusion. It's an illusion of choice between which master you want. I see no differences in either party. But before I get into all that, let me see here. So the announcements, Funnel 5, if the world's still here. If the Mercy Comet on December 19th, that is 3i Atlas, doesn't, do the rapture or some other crazy stuff they're talking about. Freedom Under Natural Law 5 will be on February 21st, 22nd. It's an online seminar both days. The whole day I'll be doing a presentation, 1 hour, called The Hammer and the Flame. And I think we need some hammers and we need some flames. We need some ignition. We need some forging. While I'm here, I'm gonna talk about something real quick here too. Still the same scuttlebutt, the same rumors, bad winter's coming. I'm looking at a very pretty winter day, actually. I think I might go buy a snow sled later and do some sledding. Go out and play. Yeah, we got some early snow. Be prepared for a bad winter. And they're still talking about December 19th for this 3-1 Atlas thing, with all its conspiracy theories. I'm still hearing lots of conspiracy stuff. They're upping the conspiracy theory rhetoric on this whole Charlie Kirk thing. And again, it's turning into a clown show to keep you distracted. Combat sports clown show. Okay? Having old guys fight one another. Having YouTubers fight named boxers. Having a big to-do thing at the White House where these gladiators go fight for the entertainment of the rulers. And everyone just watches because we have to stay distracted. If you want to know certain times frames where stuff's going to be really happening, look for the distractions that they put out there, what those dates are going to be. There's a conspiracy for you, not a theory. Now, one of the things I wanted to talk about really quick today, I don't know why this came to me. It came to me because of something that I've seen online. And it was in the biblical scripture in Exodus 33:20. And I'm not trying to be a preacher here. I don't have memorization of all the scriptures. I don't gain some type of spiritual supremacy or power feeling like I can debate different scriptures with people and watch these people go at it back and forth. Like they're being distracted and controlled. Sound familiar? I don't do that. But I think some of the things are allegory and they're taken too literally, and some of the things that could be taken more literally aren't. And I personally have studied the Nahamagi Gnostic texts, teachings of Jesus, which are completely different than what's in a great deal of the King James's version, and what was allowed into it. And it's important to have some type of working knowledge of the things that they're using to control you, and the things they're using to go to war over. If you know it, you can't be fooled by it. Okay? So Exodus 33:20, and I'm using this as an example. It says no one can see God and live. Now, between esoteric research and my own personal experiences, I had a out-of-body experience when I was 6 years old and actually flatlined and died. And in 2017, I had a near-death experience. And that's when things started happening, supernatural things at the time that I considered supernatural, I now considered simply natural. I can tell you God is constantly winking at us. God with a capital G. The universe is constantly giving you synchronicities if you pay attention. So, when I see no one can see God and live, that's probably correct, because in order to see God, you have to pass over into another dimension. You have to die. Let me explain. If God created, this is just a theory. I'm not saying this is fact. I'm throwing out a theory of mine. Okay? Only a theory. I am not attached emotionally to any theories or conclusions I come to based on my research. If I'm shown something different to consider, I'm not attached to any outcome. When you're into researching anything, if you begin your research with some type of hypothesis that you want to be correct about, your ego is going to make you research in such a way where you want to validate an already held belief, as opposed to just seeing where the facts, seeing where it takes you. I'm always like that. But this is based on my own experience. When I almost died, my breath was giving out on me, and I've told this story before, my eyes were closed, yet I could see a really bright, white, silvery type of light, like an aura, underneath my skin. I've seen this with my eyes closed, and I was very small and very weak feeling that aura. And at the time, there was nothing about me that was small. I was probably 260 pounds. I was overweight, badly overweight. And that's part of what I'm going to talk about in Funnel 5 is how I got myself back together in a lot of different ways. But that bright light, this is just a theory. If we are all extensions and fragments of God, and God made us, God with a capital G, God who Age Gnos refers to as the Father in the Sea of Lights. And when you pass over, you return to the all, and you're able to be all-knowing, all aware of everything. And I've had psychic mediums tell me this, and these same psychic mediums also described my grandfather and named him. So unless it's my special assigned from birth CIA agent, that guy really blew my mind. I have a woman who's blown my mind too. They're two of the probably best psychics in Ohio. And when they start giving you details of loved ones that have passed over that only the loved ones would know, there'll be no doubt in your mind that they're actually connecting to spirits. They're actually connecting to a different, higher dimension. There's more science to it than there is woo-woo stuff in it when you start to break down the science. But if God is that creative force that is pure light, and what I seen when I was dying was that light under my skin, that soul, the spark of the divine that actually animates human beings as opposed to robots. We are electrical in nature. I might get into that too later on. Doesn't it stand to reason that in order to see God, you would have to die? So a lot of the stuff that they say in the Bible needs to be looked at from different viewpoints. Don't get stuck on any one viewpoint, okay? Now, getting back to some of the things that I was going to talk about when I first came onto the airwaves here. Let me close this down. All right, save. One of the other things I was going to talk about is, like last week, I was angry on the show. And I was just saying on how in schools, they want you to be mind controlled. And the same thing goes on with colleges. Memorization is what they want, and they want you to regurgitate back to them what you've been taught. And then you get a high grade for it, and they give you a degree. When I've been asked about where's your degree in this or your degree in that, I don't look at any higher learning of any kind as wasteful. But I will say everyone in Washington, D.C. has a degree. How's that working out for us so far? Okay. The founder of the Ohio Buckeyes Firearms Association, God rest his soul, he passed in 2019. He, in 2014, was actually on CNN, and in a debate over firearms, I actually witnessed him completely befuddle Pierce Morgan. This guy, in 2019, wanted to take me to a ball where he was going to introduce me to the governor, the lieutenant governor, and the attorney general. And I was already well into being a voluntarist, okay, or an anarchist, and a spiritual anarchist. I don't flip over police cars during elections, okay? No real anarchist does. Those are people who vote. Because anarchy is actually the actual state of humanity if we're living in peace. No rulers, no ruled, okay? So I politely declined, but I actually said to him, I'm like, man, because this is the Ohio Buckeye Firearms Association. They raised like $14,000 for legal defense of, I forgot the guy's name in Florida. It was a murder that happened to a security guard at a community, shot somebody, and it turned into a big deal. So remember, there's an agenda to try and take your guns anyway. So anytime something like that happens, I'm like, okay, we need to be armed against the tyrannical governments of the world, okay? The reason why Japan never invaded mainland America is because the one admiral told the emperor, if we did that, we would lose because we're going to find a rifle behind every blade of grass. That's the one thing that set us apart and still sets us apart from most other countries on this planet, which is one of the main reasons why the powers that shouldn't be seek to divide us. Because the only way a new world government can be instituted is if America is divided, and they have done an expert job over the last 25 to 30 years in doing just that, by creating all kinds of false paradigms and dialectics to get everyone fighting one another instead of looking at who our enslavers are. Anyway, I digress. What was I talking about? Higher education. I don't begrudge anyone any higher education. And when he wanted to take me to that ball, and he wanted to introduce me to all these, heavy hitters in the arena around here and surrounding the Ohio Buckeye Firearms Association, I politely declined because I was already, like I said, an anarchist. I didn't want to do none of that. But I said to him, and don't you guys got a whole bunch of lawyers. This guy was a lawyer. He actually wrote the self-defense laws for the state of Ohio. I have a signed copy of his book someplace. But I said to him, this is a very smart man. I said to him, and you had so many lawyers already and blah, blah, blah. And he said to me, yeah, that's the problem. We got a lot of lawyers. We don't need lawyers. We need thinkers. The reason why I tell you that story, it isn't to toot my own horn in any way, shape, or form. I was honored he wanted to do that, but, or flattered, I should say. I am a thinker, and you should be one too. See, these schools and higher learning institutions aren't creating thinkers. They're creating educated people who are mind controlled and told what to think and taught what to think, but never taught how to think. Therefore, there is no discernment. And when we get back to something that really greatly is very personal to me, the offended culture in this country, I'm going to lay this out here for you. If you're offended, you're not a victim. If you're offended, you're not correct, at least not automatically. If you are offended and you want to win a debate with somebody, instead of having a truthful conversation for discernment and debates, if you win one, it's looked at favorably. You were a better debater. All debates is winning at being wrong most of the time. I don't debate, okay? Real victims are going to talk at you because they're going to be a real victim. And I've seen real victims, and I've been a real victim. Real victims are emotionally, mentally hurt, physically hurt, and then maybe later on very angry, not offended. If you're offended, you're not a fucking victim. Let's just put that out there. Now, you can act mad, and offended, you're not a victim. I'm not going to debate something with some dimwit who's offended. I don't care how many $5 words you have in your vocabulary. You're not having a discussion for truth, which by and large is self-evident. There's no need to really debate the truth. It's usually always simple and self-evident. So when you're offended, wanting to have a debate, you're not a victim. They teach you in these mind-controlled facilities that the one who's the more offended is the one who's the more correct, right, and therefore the victim. Bullshit. Real victims are emotionally and mentally actually hurt, or physically hurt, or very angry, and they will talk at you. They will tell you the exact facts because they're fucking mad. They're not going to try to do anything else but talk directly to you about something. And lay down the truth, and that's it. They're not trying to have a debate. If you're offended trying to have a debate, congratulations, you're probably going to win at being wrong. You're not seeking discernment. You're not trying to actually work that part of your brain that thinks, that childlike imagination that solves problems. You're just trying to run around and be right and correct. Not every side is right. When the truth can be known, sometimes someone is wrong and incorrect, and someone else is right and actually correct. Okay? The truth can be known. This is the kind of stuff they don't want us to really get to talking about. If you think about it, let me take a sip of my coffee. I see people wanting to debate the shape of the earth. I see people wanting to debate the nature of reality. I see people wanting to debate this. And it's all friendly. It's okay if you're doing it, amongst friends and whatever. But if it's just out there to cause a distraction, does it matter what shape the earth is? It could be the shape of a banana. It could be round. It could be flat. It could be anything. Whatever shape it is, we're on it and we're enslaved. So until we actually break the problem of being enslaved, it doesn't matter. Everything else is just a distraction from that. Some people might not feel like they're slaves. And sure, slavery is more covert now than it used to be. It's like war is. I want you to think of something. When you're coming out of these schools that teach you learned helplessness, people don't really like to feel helpless, just like people don't like to be told what to do. The 5-year-old and everybody screams, "You're not the boss of me." So you got a bunch of people who have this learned helplessness, have to be offended to be right, can't take any actions on their own behalf. And then the worst mentally messed up people from this system then join the military or want to be cops. When I joined the military in 1991, and when I became a cop, I was probably amongst the last generations that really wanted to try to protect and serve. I'm not saying that people that get on, young people now that get on, are all fitting into this one box. I'm not blanket stating, this isn't a blanket statement, but I want you to think about it. In order to get their power back, to not be as helpless, they go into those lines of work to have some type of power and authority all of a sudden, even if they really don't, even if they're really just being the house slaves to keep the field slaves in order. Anytime you're given any moral order in the order following business and you follow it, you're wrong, you're immoral, it's a sin. It's a sin against creation. It's a transgression against natural law. And the more bad you do, the more bad it's going to come back. And it's important because as a former cop, as a former Marine and ex-cop, I know why I joined, and I know the contradictions I've seen, and I know the hell that a lot of these guys are still going through because you're stuck between a rock and a hard place. But no one's paying attention to the game that's been played between the left and right and what they've both done to actually do this, what they're doing beautifully, actually. And that's putting troops, many of which are not even from this country, in our cities. I wouldn't want to be a cop right now. You guys are stuck between a rock and a hard place. But a lot of the people that are brand new coming out to the force now, are going into the military now, they were brought up in a system where you had to be offended and you could never take action, and then they want to learn helplessness. And these are people that see these lines of work as ways of not being, quote unquote, helpless. Some will get into politicians, some will take the science route and become doctors and nurses follow whatever medical protocols come down from above. So they're bigger order followers, quote unquote, than the military or police. And we've got medical mercenaries and medical tyranny going on in this country that we've seen very well since 2020. I worked in a federal medical facility and watched those fucking liars. About natural law, and I've talked about a lawyer that wanted to take me to meet the governor and all this other stuff. And I want to tell you why natural law, why I found it, along with Hermetic principles. And hands down, the best teacher of this is Mark Passio. And I'm using his definition here. Natural law is universal, non-man-made, binding, and immutable conditions that govern the consequences of behavior. AKA, it's karmic law. It's karma. What goes around comes around. Live by the sword, die by the sword. All these other different sayings basically to tell you that natural law is paying attention. The thing that scares me is karma seems to come much quicker now than it used to, because it could take years. Why is it coming quicker? I just have some theories on that too, but I won't get into that. Hold on a second. So I was to break down the definition on here and dissect it, the meaning of natural and law should be broken down. Natural is inherent. It's having a basis in nature, reality, and truth. It's not debatable. It's not created or caused by humankind. Man did not create this law. This law is in nature, just like the law of gravity. So natural, it's inherent, having a basis in nature. You can look outside and see nature. It doesn't lie to you. It can't. It just simply is. And law, an existing condition that is binding and immutable. It cannot be changed by human will or decree. So any human decree, any law that some legislator or the king says is their whim. That doesn't necessarily mean that the law is for the good of humanity or your good. It's probably for your enslavement. Spend 30 years paying off your home, miss maybe 3 years worth of taxes, and they foreclose your home and you become homeless. And you spent 30 years paying it off. That should be yours. So remember, real laws can't be changed. The law of gravity cannot be changed. Can they do things against the law? Like that? Well, you can do things that defy gravity. There's airplanes. Gravity's still at work. If it wasn't, I had someone try to tell me, well, there's no gravity in outer space. Tell that to a meteor that's getting close to Jupiter and go beyond it, and go beyond that meteor, or in your spaceship that's broken down. Let's just pretend on that meteor that's getting close to Jupiter, and you could tell me about how gravity is not working in outer space. People come up with the dumbest, stupidest shit. So together, natural and law is natural law is a body of universal spiritual laws, because man didn't make this, God did, the creator, that act as the governing dynamics of consciousness. Meaning if we adhere to this consciously, and become a moral society, we will become a free society. Since we're not adhering to this, we are seeing the further enslavement and ultimately the destruction of free people and humanity. And we've been here before in history, where this isn't the first great civilization that existed on this planet. So, natural law is not about man-made statutes or social constructs. It's about objective truth. There's no debating it. This is why I don't like assholes who want to just debate with me so they can be correct and right about something. No, dude, I got video of you threatening your girl. You hit this one. You threatened that one. There's no debating this. You've done stuff that is objectively bad, making you a bad person. There's no debating it. You did something to diminish other people. You victimized them. You actually transgressed against natural law. There's no debating it. So objective moral truth universally applies everywhere at all times, regardless of your culture, your time in history, or belief. Some people think it has something to do with culture or morals. You know, the moral truth depends on the culture, and it depends on the time frame in history and what that culture deemed as moral. No. God's law has already told us what moral is. Okay? So it's universally, it applies everywhere. It's non-man-made. It exists independently of human legislation or authority. It's binding and immutable. It cannot be altered. It can only be understood or ignored at your own demise. And sometimes the demise isn't real bad. The times I have not understood natural law or didn't give a shit, I ate my crow. Hell, I think I'm eating a little bit right now. But sometimes it's just the pendulum, swinging to the other side, and you just got to deal with it. When you understand these principles, when you understand these binding, immortal truths, you can mitigate the effects in your life. So the governance of consequences of our behavior inevitably will produce the result aligned with natural law, whether harmony or suffering. So you can actually align yourself with it and understand it, live within it, and don't transgress it. Or like gravity, go transgress gravity. There's mountains with really big cliffs. There's buildings. Go to the top of a building and go to the side and transgress gravity. Tell me how that works out for you. You can't see it. You can't see gravity. I can't show you a picture of it. I can show you a picture of the Jeep of Destiny, but I can't show you a picture of gravity. But it's at work. It's the same thing with karmic law and natural law. It has to do with rights and wrongdoings. Actions that align with natural law will respect inherent rights, and violations against natural law will create slavery and chaos, which is what we see in society right now. Anarchists, true anarchists, and the Greek prefix meaning without, archon meaning ruler, doesn't mean no laws. True anarchists, to the best of their ability, will adhere to the principles of natural law. And if we all did that, we would have an anarchist society, would be a free, less violent society. Because by age 10, we would know right from wrong objectively. And I like a lot of Larkin Rose's philosophy on this. There's no guarantee safety under an anarchistic society. There's still going to be bad people. But if we don't trust people and there's a bunch of bad people, why would we put some of them in charge of us and pretend they have magical powers? We don't. So freedom, true freedom arises only when human behavior is in harmony with natural law. Consciousness, awareness, understanding of natural laws are essential for moral living and societal evolution. And I'm not some paragon of morality. I will admit when I'm wrong. When you do, I don't know if you guys heard that, but when you do, that's sort of a surrender. There's nothing wrong with being wrong. If you admit to it, and if it was a wrong that brought harm to somebody else, don't do it again. Learn from it. Make some type of concession. Don't make excuses. Don't try to debate. Just to be correct. Don't act more offended to seem like the victim, therefore be seen as the one who's right and has been wronged in this, because you haven't. Real victims who have been transgressed against are emotionally, mentally traumatized and hurt, and physically. And they'll be angry. And there's a difference between anger, righteous anger, and righteous indignation because you're offended. Trust me. Most people know the difference. They just can't really describe it. Righteous, so-called righteous indignation and I'm offended has an element of anger to it, but then wants to ask a bunch of rhetorical, retarded questions to gain the upper hand in a narrative, to be right, to win a debate, to be really good at being wrong. Or somebody who actually has moved by the victim stage, the emotional, physical, or mental trauma or hurt, will be angry, and their anger isn't going to be a debate. They're going to fucking tell you exactly what you did, exactly what's wrong with it, and why you're messed up, or why you were wrong about this, and don't do it again. There's my boundary. They're going to talk at you, and they're not going to have the mental facility in their head at that point in time to debate anything if they've really been victimized. And I know there's counselors and psychiatrists out there and cops who talk to victims all the time, interview interrogators. You know I'm right, what I'm saying. But our schools have taught these people that you are actually having the police out there, that they're victims of everybody, and if they're seen that way, they'll be right. And they don't have to take self-responsibility for anything. It's always someone else's problem. This is what voters do when they go to the booth. They're voting for your master. Both sides are working together to enslave us. The whole world governments are, all the governments in tandem, 6 years ago, worked together to put diapers on our faces and lock us in our homes. That was great teamwork. Governments, yeah. Now they're all at war, and you don't have any questions? So, natural law is the real law of attraction, contrasting it with, some of the versions that focuses only on your desires. I'm gonna manifest this for my own selfish desire, so I'm gonna learn my way around manifestation and get a parking spot, or I'm going to get a pay raise or whatever. I don't have to take action. I'm woo-woo. The ignorance of natural law will lead to suffering. The ignorance of karma will lead to suffering. It will lead to our enslavement. I've heard Mark call it the law of freedom. As the aggregate morality in a society increases, as you have a more moral populace who doesn't initiate harm to other beings or steal from them, that society in the aggregate, in the collective, will start to become a freer society. As more and more euphemisms and more victimization, real victimization of people is done undercover, under the guise of authority, under the guise of safety. Doesn't matter how they euphemize it. The euphemisms to hurt you, under natural law, they're still hurting you. The more harm that is done to people, the more enslaved we're going to be. If you're the one taking a harmful action as a guy wearing a uniform, understand, you're not protected from the law. To be honest, you're not even protected by man's law, because they will throw you under the fucking bus. They don't give two shits. They'll throw you under the bus at the earliest convenience. At much higher levels, they'll take your life at the earliest convenience. So you're not even protected by man's law, but you're definitely not protected by God's law. It doesn't matter what they say you can do and cannot do. Same thing with you doctors, nurses. Anytime they have something on TV that's going to inflame one side of the political spectrum or the other, understand the dialectic at work. They're both working together. They're having you locked down, but they show nurses, okay, who are actors doing TikTok dances. That is going to piss off the right. Then they show other nurses who are crying over people who were put on ventilators and murdered. Well, that's going to piss off the left, because you need to they do this shit on purpose, and if you fall for it, I gotta say, you're a retard. And I use that term in the correct way to use it. Your mental facility, your mental thought process, your way you think has been retarded. Your growth has been retarded if you cannot see this. So I'm not this mega teacher of natural law. I'm definitely not the best at it, but I understand it. I understand it enough to teach it. I'm not 100% healed from my trauma, but I understand healing enough to teach it, to speak out. Once you know the truth of something, you have a moral obligation to start talking about it and to get other people to talk about it. And I'm not some perfect person. I'm drinking a cup of coffee. Caffeine's bad for you. I smoke a pipe with cherry tobacco. If I inhale it too much, you could tell I'm a non-smoker. I will get one of those head rushes, one of those smoker's buzzes. Speaking of that, hold on a second. Cherry tobacco. It just smells good with my coffee. But anyway, so if you want to know more about natural law, if you want to know more about true spirituality, and how God with a capital G, the Father, in the sea of lights, which we are all imbued with, that animates us, go to the onegreatnetwork.com. And there's over 80 content creators on there they teach natural law. They teach it to Mark standards, or you wouldn't be on there. So I'm honored to be on there and be included in that group. But we all got different things, different ways we're coming at things from. I'm coming at it from an order following standpoint aspect. I know what I've done wrong. I know what contradictions I've held. And I know that I have reconciled those contradictions. And when you reconcile them, you will not be in a state of conflict within yourself about shit. There is duality. I didn't always think that. But it's okay. You have to align that duality. When the inner and the outer come together, as above, so below, this is what Jesus was teaching. This is when you can find that connection, that peace, that balance. I hope this makes sense. But go to the onegreatnetwork.com. A lot of, for me, it would be /Dan-Arnold. That's my page. I put some stuff up there. I'm also on YouTube at Daniel AR 5907. That's at Daniel AR 5907. Wow, I have that memorized. On YouTube, you can see most of my videos. I always put these radio shows up there too as podcasts. And I didn't really even get into what I wanted to get into, but there's still some time left, so I'm going to. I just wanted to lay that out there, and I'll lay this stuff. I'll always talk about. It all comes back to following natural law, because if we don't, we're going to pay the price. You will pay the price. So, for the people that are in power, quote unquote, the power that should not be, and for people in my personal life and in your personal life, because you know them, and you have lied, and you've lied to prosecutors, and you've lied about harming people, and you've manipulated people and coerced them, and you've threatened people and brought physical harm to them but want to debate about it, you have transgressed against every natural law. And I taught you about those things. And when karma comes, just remember that. And the best way to get through it is to admit to yourself, admit out loud, you were wrong, and then make reparations for the harm you've caused to the people that you harmed and transgressed against. And being offended, or even offending somebody, that's not a transgression. But lying on them that diminishes them, coercing somebody else against them, assaulting somebody or threatening somebody in some way of physical harm to take away their well-being, to coerce them in some way to do this or. These are transgressions against natural law, and you're going to pay the piper for them. And we're paying it in the collective. You can look at it and see it. We're paying it. Our society, a society that's this immoral cannot stay free. Well, everyone's running around playing the victim and going to war with one another. And instead of trying to bring unity to the whole world, bring unity to people, bring peace. It starts with yourself. It starts with yourself when you take a deep breath in. You breathe in the good shit and exhale the bullshit. When you don't lie to yourself. When you quit being... So like I said last week, I feel like I emotionally vomited on the air a little bit, and I probably did. I'm reminded of something my yoga teacher once taught me. It's kind of a funny story. She may not have even been talking to me. But we were stuck in this yoga class, and by this halfway point, I felt stuck. It was painful. Oh my God. Now, keep in mind, I've become a teacher of yoga. I went through the teacher training. But I was in this class, and we were in Utkatasana, chair pose, for a very long time. And you can see people are suffering. The teacher's got the full view of everybody. And all of a sudden, she says, quit the pity party, quit the pity party. And I felt as if she was talking directly to me. There's like 40 people in there, so she probably wasn't. But then the next thing she said was, I know some of you have been in the military. Okay, now I know she's talking to me. Although there was other people in there that had been in the military. She's like, you sure? I know you've done, everyone actually, but especially you military guys, you've done way more harder stuff than this. And everyone's, half the people are still in the pity party. I was coming out of it. I was out of the pity party. The class is quiet. And then all of a sudden, when she said, I know some of y'all have definitely done stuff harder than this. I was like, no, I haven't. The whole class started laughing. But yeah, you got to stop the pity party. You got to get real with yourself. Yoga's a good thing. It's a good thing. So let me close this out here. Let me close this down here. I don't think I've been as bad this week. There's 10 things I want to go over. I'll call them things that can help you get over complex trauma, that have helped me, because I had to do my own research. If you read my story, Rise from Darkness, you'll understand why I didn't trust going to counselors in this area, because they all know one another, and I had enemies in those disciplines of work. I'll just put it to you that way. So I had to do my own healing and my own research. So you have to have the ability to work through these things. And there's 10 points that can help you start to overcome trauma. Some people would call it shadow work. I don't necessarily call this shadow work. Shadow work, I am going to watch that. I am going to buy that seminar and get that. But to me, shadow work, one of the things that came to me over the weekend about it is it's admitting to yourself the things that you really are scared of about yourself. What is the absolute darkest you can be? What is the worst you have done? What do you fragment off and pretend like it didn't happen? What was in the shadows of your subconscious that has all of a sudden come to the light of consciousness? There's more. It's way deeper. So what I'm getting into isn't shadow work, but it's just some stuff that can help you build, can help you maybe reframe some of the trauma that you've been through. Because if you don't face the trauma you've been through, you're going to traumatize others eventually, and you do it on accident. I know somebody who's got defensive narcissistic syndrome. He wants to be the one to abandon people because he feels like he was abandoned as a kid. Also could have never admit he's wrong or say sorry. He's got serious childhood issues that need to be addressed. We all do. But his are bad. And this is the trauma that people don't want to look at. They don't want to admit it. They don't want to face it. They most certainly don't want to try to heal it. So the number one, okay, there's 10 points here. Number one, can you build up a capacity to neither resist or reject pain, nor get overly attached to seeking pleasure? And when you do swing more to one side or the other, which I've done, can you learn from it by observing what's happening around you at that time? That's where I find myself a lot. It is non-attached observation that rebuilds your capacity and ability to have containment again. So as you grow into being more resilient, you'll simultaneously process your emotional residue. Because your emotional residue is going to keep you repeating patterns. Your emotional residue is going to keep you wanting to externally point the finger instead of making a knife hand and pointing all four of your fingers and your thumb directly at a mirror. This is important to do. Let me see, I have somebody driving around out here like that on my little mountain. Anyway, so you have to rebuild your capacity to contain your emotions again. Don't reject the pain. Be with the pain. Admit that it's painful. This is going to keep you from getting angry at people that you're actually sad about. But sometimes you've got to process the anger first, and it's okay to be angry. Don't I know people that make excuses that feel bad about something. So they have an excuse to jump back into the bottle. You're victimizing yourself when you do that. So get away from wanting to always have some coping mechanism to get out of the moment that you're just not jiving with. Can you actually just unattached, can you just observe what's happening, observe yourself, observe your emotions without being super reactive right away? What hurts you? Where can you create a boundary that's a real boundary? I'm not talking new age, fake ass boundaries that these pussies want to, excuse my language, want to say, I'm setting a boundary because they're using it as a means of getting out of a responsibility. That's not setting a boundary. That's lying to others and that's lying to yourself. But a real boundary, it's set right then and there. Something I've learned. Don't let something fester. If somebody's done something wrong that you don't like and it's directly to you, address it right then and there. Address the exact action while you're bothered by it, and tell them you're not going to put up with that again. Ask them not to do it. Don't do it again. Whatever it is. That's not something I do. Let's say they want to talk about religion, and you just don't want to talk about it. You can set a boundary and just say, I don't really like talking about religion. I want to talk about something else. If they continue, hey, since you didn't listen to me, I'm going to go now. When you want to hang out and talk about something, we both want to hang out, we can. But if you're not going to respect a simple boundary, you're definitely not going to respect a serious one. That's just to give you an example of what a real boundary is. A real boundary isn't breaking a promise to help somebody move. And you're using boundary settings to, I was just, using that as an example. If you didn't want to help, don't say you were going to help. That's just another stupid example of trying to get out of a responsibility. Yet maybe that person helped you move 10 times. This is just, again, this is nothing personal. This isn't from my own life. I'm just using these as examples on what a real boundary is versus, new agey people using armchair psychology to name off this or that as an excuse for their fucking poor behavior, which ultimately ends up leading to transgressions against natural law. So that's number one. Can you build up a capacity to neither resist nor reject pain? Don't get overly attached to seeking pleasure. If you do, what was going on when that happened? What were you thinking when it happened? That's number one. I'll get through number 2 through 10 next week of this very same list. And it kind of helped me, and I'm still working at it. I'm a work in progress. I'm healing in plain sight. Anyway, God bless everybody. I don't think I was as bad this week as I was last week. I definitely didn't want to get up here and emotionally vomit on anybody. I hope you guys enjoyed the show. I'm going to start having some of my psychic friends on. I'm going to start having some guests on pretty soon. Anyways, man, peace out till next week. Stay safe and beloved.